Hello everyone, welcome to Datasense, no nonsense guide to all things data and self-hosting. If you're like me, you love self-hosting. You want a code server, Grafana, Homebox, and 20 other apps running. But you hit a wall. Your RAM is full and your VPS bill is clamped. Enter Sablier. It's an open source tool that acts like a bouncer for your Docker containers. When you aren't using an app like Homebox, Sablier kills it, save resources, and when you visit the URL, Sablier wakes it up instantly. It's called scale to zero, and usually only big clouds like AWS have it. But today, we're going to set it up on your server. Okay, so let's switch over to the terminal and see how to set it up. First, we need the Sablier agent. This listens to the Docker socket. In our implementation, we will be waking the application by calling an endpoint. Detects when we're trying to access a website and tells Docker to spin up the container. So let's switch over to the terminal, and I have all my files stored under Docker Compose files folder. And so let's go into this folder there and cd into Sablier. Now, what you would be doing is first you need to create a Docker Compose file. So I have that, I have that already set up. So let's go into Docker Compose and see how this is configured. So we have the services, Sablier, and this is the image for Sablier. And the main thing is this. So this is where it's listening to. This is the location where your Docker socket is set up. And Sablier is going to listen to the same socket. And you have to give the command called start provider named Docker. So there are different providers that Sablier offers, and we will be going with Docker for now. And okay, so once this is set up, what you can do is start the container up using Docker Compose up. So let's do that. Docker Compose up hyphen. Now let's check if Sablier is running. So we do Docker PS, and yes, we have it running here. So this is the container name that we gave. Okay, so let's do clear. And something that we want to check is the port that it's running on. So it's running on the port 1000, 10,000 actually. So this is important. And once we have the Sablier agent running, now we have to modify the home box. So the simple part here is that if you have a home box Docker Compose file already set up, you just have to change the labels. And let's go into that and change a few things. Okay, so let's do cd home box. Okay, so now that we're in home box, let's do nano go into the Docker Compose file. So the three places that you have to change is this. Now you have to give the label as Sablier enable equals true, Sablier.group equals home. You can give it any name. I gave it home, and the session duration. Now, what this means is there's the key part here. Um, the Sablier session will only be active for 30 seconds, after which, if it's inactive, Sablier will close this down. So this is really important part here. And yeah, all this will be in the GitHub repo that I'll be posting. The home box is going to be running at 3100. And now that the group has been set up, we have to call the endpoint. So, and this is the endpoint that we'll be calling. Now I'm accessing the endpoint from my laptop, and this is the IP address for the server where we have the home box and Sablier running, and this is the port that Sablier is running on. Now the key point is the group name, so we are calling the group home. So this is the endpoint that you have to call. Now before doing that, make sure you run the home box once. So this is important because we have to register Homebox with Sablier, the Homebox group called Home. So to do that, let's just do Docker compose up D again. Now the Docker compose has started for Homebox and it's running. So you can check the logs of Sablier and you'll see something interesting here. Docker logs Sablier. So this is where the magic is happening. So the set group operation, the old is map empty, and now the new map is home for the new Homebox um, Docker container that we're going to be running. So it has added this. And the next important step to make sure is that you don't kill the Docker container. So what I mean by that is you shouldn't be doing Docker compose down. Instead, what you should be doing is Docker stop homebox. So what this does is it's going to stop the homebox, but our group is not going to be removed from this. So now that all this has been set up, you can call the endpoint. And just to make sure that this is working, let's refresh this. And you see, the service is currently not running. Now, what I've set up in my dashboard is that I've got a Sablier launcher tab. Now, what this tab is going to do is it's going to call the endpoint and wake up home. So wake up the group called home. And that's basically the home box group. So if I click on this, it's going to give me a modal and it's going to start up Homebox. So we will give it a few seconds and this should have woken up Homebox. So let's refresh this and it has worked. So server response is 200. So it's working. And now what this lets you do is you don't have to have these containers always running, and you can have a launch script like I have it here, which is going to call this. And whenever you click on the launch script, it's going to wake up Homebox. So the Homebox is going to wait for 30 seconds. And if there's no activity, it's going to wind down. Now, this is really useful because I don't want the Homebox to be always running, and I want it to run when I need it. And when I'm done working with it, it has to wind down. So that's where you have to give the time duration. Now I gave 15 seconds just for demonstration, but you would keep something longer, like 15 or 30 minutes. That's something that you can use in your home labs. So if I refresh this again, let's wait for a couple of seconds and see if this winds down. Okay, so it's been a couple of minutes and Homebox has wound down. So you can see that the service has stopped. Okay, another interesting setting that you might be interested in is the session duration. So we had the option of setting up the session duration inside our Docker Compose file for Homebox, but you can also do it at the API level. So the same setting, you can add a session duration of, let's say, 5 minutes, copy this over to our dashboard, and yeah, that's a fun thing to say. Dashboard. And you can paste the URL here under the service URL, and that's an easy approach of setting the session duration. You can make it more dynamic. I've put the full Docker Compose file and the link to the official Sablier website in the link below. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe. See you next time with more home lab and data videos.